welcome to Talking Synths, episode 43. I'm Sam, and this is not Carlos.
Nope.
This is Nick. He's another of our techs here at Syntaur. And Nick is someone that comes to us from a different background, and it's turned out to be a great thing lately because you're into the older combo organs and stuff, and you have experience on stuff that we don't. So, first of all, tell us your background.
Well, I actually came up working at a little guitar shop in Boston. I started there when I was about 21, and that was many, many years ago. And when I was there, I mostly did guitars, but on my own, and for the store too, I got into doing combo organs, because I'm just a 60s nut, and I love those old keyboards. And just got into working on them. You know, you find them cheap, you fix them up.
Yeah.
Same thing you do with synths.
But it's not just combo organs. You were working on the Octagon, and
yeah, I got a lot of weird
and
stuff. Yeah, I spent 2 days sweating over the Octagon. I don't know if I look sweaty now, but I'll just roll with it.
But it sounds great, and I was amazed how quickly you got it going. What are there major differences between working on regular synths and working on combo organs and that sort of thing? Octagons?
They are really similar in a sense. I mean, I thought it was funny, like getting into synths after being into combo organs. A combo organ is a set of oscillators, and my favorite, Farfisa Compact Deluxe, has a decay switch, so it gives it a short decay. There's your envelope, and it's got a knee lever that makes it sound like a wah. There's your pitch sweep. A lot of the same features that a synth has. So
I'm not used to using a knee lever, but
oh, it's great. I mean, you look goofy going like this the whole time, but I mean, it sounds like a wah pedal, but just like at the knee.
Yeah.
I always loved it because to me, I love the 60s, and it sounds like I play the Farfisa, and it sounds like Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. That really spooky first album they did with Syd Barrett, and so it transports me right there, and I love that.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, the further back you go, you have discrete electronics, so everything is individual transistors and components versus, and then later on you get into the chips, and so rather than probing around to legs of individual pieces, you're going across legs of chips. But that's pretty relative.
And how did you pick up this stuff? How did you learn electronics?
Really just from doing it and from reading, from videos, from exploring the device itself, from schematics, trial and error, a lot of deductive reasoning. What's nice about a lot of these things is you have a circuit that doesn't work next to a circuit that's identical that works. So you go back and forth and you take measurements. You can even swap parts to see what travels with the part, and then you know where you're at.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of the combo organs use a divide down circuitry, and then basically you have 11 identical circuits for the different notes.
That's right.
Yeah, and so you can, that's a good point. So
however many octaves you have in the keyboard, you have the main oscillator and then that many octaves, that many circuits.
Yeah. Well, is it a circuit per octave, or is it a circuit per note, like A, B, C?
Well, both, I guess you could say. You have on one card, let's say you have your A, master oscillator, and then your, 5 dividers maybe that go down the length of the keyboard.
Right.
So both, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, you've been knocking them out, so it's been impressive.
It's been fun.
And we've had some crazy stuff in the last few weeks, and so
I know.
So what are some of the tricks of the trade? You brought some stuff for show and tell.
I have show and tell items, yes. I mean, my go-to things that I like to reach for, number one, I learned this from a tech a long time ago in Boston. His name was Bo Dixon. We were working on my Trident mixer that I had, and I look over and see this probe with a speaker on it and a button. I said, what is that? And it's just a signal tracer. This is, I think, like a telephone lineman's tool. You have like a tone generator that you plug into the line, and it generates a beep, and then you can, through AC induction, actually hear it along the line, and you can hear where it might drop out, or that it keeps going, and that it's this line and not that line, or something like that. the same applies with audio signals. You can use this to go through your device, and most times you'll be able to hear your oscillators or your whatever AC signal, a guitar or something. And you can figure out where it drops out, if it's here or not there, and same thing.
So if you have your oscillator's generating, say, a square wave,
Mm-hmm.
and you put that on the right point, you're going to hear a sound that's like a square wave.
Yeah. Yep. After the filter, yeah.
And so you can hear it before the filter, and then
Yeah, you usually
after the
hear it.
if you're turning the knob, can you actually hear the filter changing?
It depends on where you are in the circuit, but yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's really useful. I mean, everyone should have this. A lot of people will have. Back in the day, they'd have like benchtop signal tracers, which is like some Heathkit thing with a speaker in it, and the probe would come out. A lot of people will just use their guitar amp and a cable, and you just have to put the right value capacitor so you don't get DC voltage going into your amp, because sometimes you get to probe around, you go to the wrong place, it's power. And something like this, it's not like a circuit, it's just one probe, so it's not being grounded or in any way, but
Right.
you'll just hear a
Okay.
buzz when you go to like a voltage, but then when you find your signal, you hear it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And where would a fellow find something like that?
I got this on eBay. Actually, this one is kind of an older one. It doesn't have a volume control, so it's obnoxiously loud. I would have to I taped a piece of foam over it just to make it more muffled, because it was just so
Gotcha.
blaringly loud. But it's called Progressive Electronics 200B, and they have a newer one with a volume control, so that makes it a little easier. And I'm sure there's other brands too, but this is the one that's pretty easy to find, and eBay.
And if there's a little too much highs, you can tape a tissue over the speaker like the Yamaha NS10s.
That's right. Yeah, the NS10 trick.
All right. What else you got there?
Well, my other go-to, seeing that a lot of times one of the first things to go in an old device is a capacitor, I have an Esr meter. And this one is sort of like an analog style as opposed to a digital readout, where it doesn't give you much data, it just gives you the ESR measurement. And as capacitor goes bad, this value goes up. And so, I mean, a lot of times this will tell you where you're losing signal or you've got a bad capacitor.
And
So
ESR stands for what?
equivalent series resistance, which
Okay.
goes up as a capacitor ages,
Okay.
essentially, yeah.
And so if you're testing a capacitor, and you can do it in the circuit?
That's right.
And so if you see a really high ESR, you can suspect that this capacitor might be bad?
That's right. Yeah, and it's usually good to compare it to a known good one to make sure, because it can vary, but it works just well as just kind of a good bad meter, and it even has a beep up to 1 or 2 ohms ESR, because that's around where it would be good, and then as it starts to get to 3, 4, 5 and up, then most of the time, depending on the value, that's when you should compare it to something that's good,
Okay.
or that it might just be bad.
And different types of capacitors, if it's a tantalum, a disc, or...
Tantalums, it'll work anything over 1 microfarad. It'll work on tantalums or electrolytics.
Okay.
Yeah. A must-have.
Yeah.
There's a brand called Peak that makes a really good one. That's it gives you capacitance too, but that doesn't really work so well in circuit. But yeah, I always grab this.
All right.
Yeah. The other two things I have are really just like if you need to sort of determine a value of a component in a snap, you need a decade box. For example, in the Optigon, we had the photocell that the volume control works on, where there's it actually uses the same light that reads the optical discs for the photocell for the volume pedal, and a shutter will come up and down and cover it or uncover it, and when it's covered, it has a high resistance, and when the light hits it, there's a low resistance, and it lets the signal pass through. Mm-hmm. So one of them was bad, and you could just short across it and get the signal come through, but it's a bit hot, because the LDR photocell, it will still have some resistance. So if you need to figure out what a good level will be and you're not sure what value to use, all you do is clip these to your spot and you flip around and find what you think will work.
Nice.
It's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I determined how the CV pedals would work best.
Ah, okay.
It's just kind of fine-tuning the values of the resistors.
Nice.
With my decade box. I have one for resistors, capacitors. I have a super ancient one in the other room that looks pretty cool. Sure about that.
From the 60s?
Yeah, 60s or 50s is super old.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for? I think a lot of our viewership is made of people that are interested in working on their stuff, but haven't had the training. Maybe they have a little bit of experience. They can solder a battery or something, but they don't know how to go about diagnosing a broken keyboard. What are some tips you might have for how to learn, or easy ways to get started, or first things to try?
Well, a lot of what people go to is those old Radio Shack kits, like the 100 electronic projects in one, and that'll usually come with the books, like electronics, like a beginner's electronics book, written by Forrest Mims, unknown if there's any relation or not to Sam Mims.
Yeah, I don't know either, but here's a crazy thing. I've always wanted to meet Forrest Mims. Because so many people say, "Are you related to Forrest Mims?" and I think, I wish I had his electronic knowledge genes.
Yeah.
And so I've always wanted to meet him, and so I kind of Googled around a little bit, and it turns out he lives in the next county over.
He's a Texas man. Wow.
I still haven't met him, but
We gotta go find this guy.
but we're getting close. But yeah, he wrote a lot of those early Radio Shack
They're great.
books.
They're really easy to understand. You know, there's little cartoons in them and everything, so you can really follow along. And you know that the console it comes with is really fun because it's just everything spring clips. You can just stick a component right on it. There's a nice little breadboard. Just make up a circuit real quick, and you're rolling. And there's circuit examples in there of how to make oscillators. So right away in your beginner book, you can make an oscillator.
Are those still available? Or is that
That's a good
kind of
question. I mean,
something from the 60s?
Radio Shack isn't around anymore, but they made so many of them up until the 2000s that they're all over eBay. You can get them for like $50.
Yeah.
You know, they come with 2 workbooks. The first is basic electronics, and the second one gets into like the more digital stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely a good place to start. And obviously YouTube and however many resources there are on the web.
Yeah. What are some of the most common problems with synthesizers? 'Cause maybe some common things that might be easy to fix. So if you're a beginner at this and you want to be a little more of a tech, but your keyboard's not coming on, or
I have such a luxury here where anytime I open something up and something's wrong that needs a part, it's usually on the shelf.
Yeah.
So it's really nice because, you know, I don't think a lot of people are going to have like voice chips lying around. So you might have to pause your project and go order something. But, you know, usually what you do is you start, you know, you look at the power supply, you make sure you're getting your proper voltage. I mean, you know, anybody can really fix a synth if they download the service manual and start reading through it and just try to figure out what needs to be where.
That's a bold statement, though. Anybody can.
Well, you know, I mean, maybe
with enough time and
maybe it's just
patience,
because
maybe.
I just dive into these things, but
Maybe you've got the brains to
I don't
figure
know,
that
maybe.
out,
I feel like anybody can, but you know, seeing what needs to be where is good. You know, for voltage, you need what's coming out of your power supply. Is it getting to your boards? You know, and then once you have that settled, grab this and see if your oscillators are humming. And you know, if you got weird signal stuff, turn it off. Grab this. Check your capacitors. You know, this is really my process to at least start to, you know, see what's going on. Obviously, check for connections, bad connections, things like that. And you know, a lot of the times it's something stupid.
Yeah.
Bad connection, old capacitor.
Broken wire or something easy.
Yeah, like a plug that needs to be reseated.
Yeah.
Chips that are in sockets that need to be reseated. You know, use your contact cleaner and spray those out. Most of the time, it's not too hard.
I love that you're confident about that, and you say that anyone can do it. And the most heartwarming comments I've gotten in this company are things of the nature of, you guys gave me the confidence to open up my keyboard and do this, and I did it, and I fixed it. And that person never would have dreamed he could before. So
That's right.
I always feel like we're kind of balancing between, okay, don't do this because it could be dangerous, or we don't want you to hurt your keyboard. But on the other hand, when someone can accomplish that, it's such a great thing, a great feeling, and a great accomplishment. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're a lot less dangerous than like guitar amplifiers, you know. In a situation like that, you have high voltage everywhere, and you have the chassis on the bench, and you're reaching into it, and if it's on, you know, the chassis is right here, and there's ground right there at your wrist. So, I mean, it's just so easy to, you know, get into a perilous situation there. And, but, you know, a lot of times with synths and keyboards, you have your power supply over here, and then everything else after that is low voltage.
Yeah.
So you have the luxury of that, but...
Yeah, it's usually, what, no more than 15 volts or something?
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, I mean, the best thing, if you feel overwhelmed with working on electronic devices, what really happens is you open it up and you see everything in a zoomed out perspective, and it's overwhelming. As soon as you start zooming in on every little section, because every section has a function. So as soon as you start getting sectional, what board does what part of the circuit does this, what function does that component have? As soon as you start zooming in to a component level, and then you become familiar with the circuit, then you're doing it.
Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite service manual?
I love ARP stuff. Everything ARP is like an education on how synthesizers work, and it explains in plain English what is going on, which has taught me so much.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Carlos and I talked about this once, and we both marveled at the MG1 service manual.
I've never looked at that.
Yeah, it goes into such detail like that. But yeah, I didn't think of the ARP stuff, so
they're so good.
And those things, the older vintage things like Moog and ARP, those are usually easily found. You just do a search online, and there are a number of sites that have them. So
yeah,
they're fun to dig into.
Very fun. Definitely the ARP stuff.
Yeah. How much do those things cost? What would someone invest in gearing up to do some work like this?
These Decade boxes were actually kits. Ellen Co. makes kits. I wish I could tell you how much they were. It's so long ago that I bought them. All of this stuff is under $100 a piece.
Yeah, it doesn't look real expensive for those.
I think a capacitor wizard or an Esr meter is usually $50, $75, maybe up to $100. Something like this might be $20 to $50 on eBay. Yeah, not too expensive.
And then you probably want a soldering iron. Any tips on that?
Soldering iron, you know, Weller is kind of the go-to brand for everybody. These things, obviously, a multimeter, so you can do your voltage and your resistance. And then, you know, if you can find one, a lot of times people can find a scope used, you know, cheap on Craigslist or something. You know, if you want to just be able to have access to that, or you get to that level and you want to see waveforms and use that for signal tracing, it's a great thing to have.
Oscilloscope.
Yeah.
Can you say a few words about how you would use an oscilloscope?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the TV version of a signal tracer, really. You know, you're just using it to see what is passing through your circuit, whether it's you know, the wave of a AC power to an audio signal. Yeah.
And the cool thing with an oscilloscope is if you put it at the right place and you're playing a ramp wave, a sawtooth wave, you can see that on the screen. And, yeah.
You can see some pretty funky stuff.
Yeah.
I always like the Talking Synths intro where you have, like, I don't know how you did that, the appearance on the scope where it's got a picture.
Yeah.
I've never done that. It's cool.
Lucas did that, right?
Magic software.
Oh, okay.
That was Ron's oscilloscope.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen that a few times. I'm like, how do they do that?
Yeah, we had a few questions about people wondering that, and a few answers of people that knew how, and it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Any other pointers for people that want to dive in and start fixing synthesizers?
Well, you know, it's good to go in and, you know, you start to learn what to do, and you also learn what not to do. You know, things like what will work, what won't work, what will hurt your equipment, you know, testing things in circuit, will it work with this kind of component versus that kind of component? You know, can I do this with the unit powered on, or should it be off? You know, there's a lot of do's and don'ts that are good to, you know, adopt as best practices.
Yeah, and when do you want on and when do you want off? Because you don't want to mix those up properly.
Well, like your resistance setting on your meter, if you're measuring, you know, a resistor with your ohm setting, you don't want power running through the circuit.
Right,
That can mess
okay.
up your meter.
And
Things like that.
if you're grabbing stuff, you don't want it
I
on.
don't want to be grabbing stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any bad experiences working on gear?
Just a jolt here and there that I can think of, or
No joke.
it's a lot of times it can be like structural things, like if something breaks by accident, then you have to go find it because you leaned in too hard. I don't know. It's been a while since things like that happened.
That's a good point, though. There's a lot of mechanical repair
Yeah.
that's involved in this kind of stuff. The Optigon, for instance.
Yeah. Very all press fit, snap together, toy manufacturer construction.
Yeah, plastic pieces and
I got away with it.
yeah.
Barely.
A lot of when we first started doing repairs and refurbishing, a surprising amount of that was mechanical stuff, broken keys,
Right.
and broken mounts for circuit boards and whatever, and things are flopping around inside. So.
Yeah, I remember, what was it, the CS80 video where you guys had to replace some of the bushing rail because
Yeah.
it snapped off? Like,
Yeah.
think like that snapping or just a drag.
Yeah,
Because it's not something you can just screw another one in,
yeah,
You have to like rebuild structural elements of the keyboard.
yeah, and you got to be kind of creative. It often reminded me of okay, you're going to build a new house or you're going to refurbish an old house. And build a new house is easy because you buy some 2x4s and hammer them together. or
Right,
whatever.
right.
But when you're refurbishing, you cut into a wall and you find out, oh, this is old plumbing and it's got to go to this plumbing and you got to make an adapter. And
Turns into the money pit.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you have to be creative about it sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah. What are some great experience that you've had? What's the stuff that really floats your boat and makes you happy?
I feel like with keyboards, I've done a lot of repairs, had some frustrating things happen, just like things that take a while, or, you have to sort of like, you put something back together and you find out, something got squeezed or pinched and it's not working, you got to take it all back apart again. A lot of back and forth stuff is frustrating. Somehow with keyboards, I feel like I always breeze through the repair and I always go right to the thing that's wrong and find it and everything's good. It's just a thing with keyboards that I've had. I love fixing amps, I love fixing guitars. They're fun, they're challenging, and they're things we all love to use. But sometimes they can be a little mysterious. A crackle in an amplifier, or a buzz in a fret, and you're spending all this time and it's frustrating. And guitars can be a little bit more of a craft rather than like a sort of technical thing, you might say, like you're carving instead of doing component level repairs.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find keyboards to be just somehow intuitive for me.
Oh, it's great. You've become one with them.
Yeah.
And you've been breezing through them. I mean, it's been impressive.
It's just a talent I have, I guess. I don't know. I just have a thing for it.
Yeah, that's great.
I've been through enough combo organs, and I think that's sort of helped me cut my teeth.
Yeah. Well, those are
Yay.
some great tips, and
Yeah.
we appreciate you sitting in with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so I guess with that, we will, until next time, bid you modulate.
Later.